everyone. Today we got to play Iberian Gauge. So this game is a train economic game. You've got some stocks and dividends going on, as well as this beautiful map that you're going to be building trains over. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because train games are cool.
And we're cool. And we're all wearing the same shirts.
It's
which
true.
You can actually get now because we have them up on our store.
Actually, it's true. And some other stuff.
Shut the front door.
Yes. Yeah. www.legendsofnerdvana.com/shop.
Yeah.
And that'll take you directly to it.
I'm kind of impressed that you remember that right.
I do. Because I'm going to go out there and order me some stuff. I need masks for Gen Con.
All right. So, Rob, tell us more about this particular game.
So this is a new release from Capstone Games. This is the third game in their Iron Rails series of train games. So, again, Iberian Gauge, Board Game Geek rating is 7.4. It plays 3 to 5 players. Designed by Mobile. I apologize if I mispronounced that. Holland. Art by Ian O'Toole. Published again by Capstone Games. MSRP $39.99. I did not find a cheaper version because it just came out.
So yeah, when did it come out?
It came out today.
Oh,
this week.
This week.
So it became available. So I pre-ordered it through our local game shop. I think that if you pre-ordered it through Capstone's website, you got maybe a month or so ago.
Okay. So, but this is still pretty hot off the presses.
New. So yeah.
So let's talk about quality of pieces. So obviously the first player marker is this big, huge, kind of cool train, and then you have the miniature size of those for the actual pieces that you're going to build your track upon. And then you have some basic generic cubes of the player colors, which I kind of liked their color choices on these.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
they're a little different.
They're different and they're nice. I kind of like them. And then the actual company colors. So that's the other thing to keep well of, is there's a difference between companies and players. And then your money are just cards, but they are linen finished. Mm-hmm. They are actually kind of really nice.
I like the money in this game. It's it's definitely a little bit higher quality than your standard like paper money.
Yes, much so. I'm a little sad that the piles got big and they kind of flew all over the place because they're kind of slick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was much better than no paper money, where you're trying to sit in there and be like, get the money
back. Coins are like right there. We could have used them.
But these are nice. Let's use something nice.
I didn't care for them as much, but all right.
What about peace and already? Whatever.
So overall, though, I mean, besides the money, everything else is kind of pretty generic. I'm probably gonna give this a 6. What do you guys think? Maybe a 6.5?
I'm going to go a little bit higher because I like the little miniature trains. They're kind of cute. So I'm going with 6.5.
Yeah, 6.5. What about you?
I mean, to me, this is a letdown after the coffee traders just blew us away.
Listen.
As far as Capstone Games, I made the comment, you argued with me on it. This one, I think, makes a point back on my side.
But the price point is completely
different.
Yeah,
it's definitely a different
traders.
price story. Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of money for that game, but you got a lot of stuff. In the
and this is only $35.
Yeah.
So for $35, I think they did plenty good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like the mini trains as well. And
they're itty bitty. My problem is I had problems gripping and which side was up.
Exactly. That was the thing. We had a lot of trains played where the wheels were up.
Yeah, and then we had to sit there and being like, wait a second, those are backwards. And then we ended up toppling over.
Then we had Alan intentionally doing it just to irritate Rob.
Because he's jerk face.
I just want to point out, I was the least anal of the two of us.
That's true.
During the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, trains
it might be
because
this is my game.
Yeah.
So of course I have to feel responsible about it.
All right. So let's move on to theme. So the theme is basically you are a investor, and you're investing in different railroad companies.
So it's through the Iberian Peninsula, so that's Spain and Portugal.
And so you get you end up buying stock, and that money goes to the company, and the company ends up buying, and so the company has so many actions based on how many players put cubes on there. So with how many ever stocks were bought, that's how many actions they get. And then you end up building your trains across the peninsula. But the key component is there whatever stocks. So dividends get paid out as soon as all the build stage is done. And those dividends go to the players as well as the company if they have leftover shares. So there's an interesting balance of wanting to buy the shares up quickly, but at the same time wanting the company to be able to have enough money to purchase things in future rounds to be able to buy those stocks back. Otherwise, they don't get dividends, and so then where's the money going to come from? And that becomes pretty hard to deal with. Very similar to the calling out of Big Shoulders. It's like
Big Shoulders.
City of Big Shoulders Light is what we called it.
Yeah, it felt very much like if you took all the company running aspect out of the game, it felt like the pieces that were left behind, which is frustrating because that's the piece I enjoyed the most for the City of Big Shoulders.
So, but theme-wise, though, because we're kind of losing track a little bit, theme-wise, though, it is an economic train game.
I mean, thematically, it's pretty dry.
It's pretty dry.
There's not a whole lot there.
Yes. I mean, there's a little bit of dividend stocking. I mean, it's...
No, the game does not shine on the theme side.
No.
I mean, the art is nice. I think that...
Their color palette was really nice.
The color palette's nice. I like how minimalist it is. I think it blends well to this game and how it plays. So the map's not busy. You're not getting overwhelmed with all this information that you don't need that sometimes you see in some other training games.
Yeah.
So I liked that part of it.
This is a good intro economic game.
I think so.
I totally could have seen playing this in like high school or something to learn about stocks and dividends or something like that. So I thought that was actually pretty interesting. Theme-wise, score-wise, 6.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most interesting thing about the theme was the fact that, like, Heather learned that Spain and Portugal were in Iberia. The game was called Iberian Gauge, and she's like, "Is that Spain?" Yeah, we're like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, it looks like Portugal's in here too." It's like, "Yeah, that's why it's called Iberian Gauge, the Iberian Peninsula."
I mean, to be fair, it just looks like a square. Like,
I agree. It's a light thematic game, but I do like the art in particular. I do like, so I think it's a little bit higher for me. I'm going to give it a 6.5.
Okay, what about you? What's your score?
Yeah, I can't see giving it more than a 6. I mean, the cardboard pieces, as far as the ranking stuff, I mean, they're functional, but they're not great cardboard. I I like the color palette, but it's really basic. And, I'm not a big fan of the cards, but we've already talked about that.
We already did.
And everything's...
components. We're talking about the...
I know, I'm talking about them too. And the cubes for everything. Pretty standard stuff. So yeah, I think I'm a 6.
Okay. All right. So Randy, tell us more about the rules.
All right. So first of all, it's one page,
front
and back for an economic game. So that should tell you this is not a heavy economic game.
Right.
It's a light to medium.
Which could be a good introductory,
I mean, as far as economics go, and train placements are already a lot of basic games there. Ticket to Ride and so on. But as far as the rule sheet, it's just the font is tiny. This should have been a 4-page rulebook probably, and it's 1 page front and back, and it was a strain to read it. As far as the content, I think there were a couple typos we saw, but that wasn't a big deal. Mm-hmm. The biggest issue we had was we were confused when we were going through with the train building. It threw us off because when you go through an investment phase, you can do multiple rounds.
Right.
But the build phase, it wasn't clear.
I think the confusion was that we didn't realize that you're supposed to collect dividends at the end of each section, which clarified the other rule about the building.
Yeah, once we discovered that, we realized that we were playing it correctly.
Right. Yeah, and the rules didn't really do a good job of kind of mapping that out.
Yeah, so give them a score.
I'll give them a 7. I think they did the job effectively, and I do appreciate that they're short. Yeah. I would appreciate it a lot more if I could actually read them without squinting.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's get into gameplay. So it's pretty straightforward. All the players start with $40. And basically, whoever gets the first player token, they get to buy the first stake or first share in any of the companies that you see. So
and they determine the price of it, which I think it's fairly unique.
That's exactly how City of big
Broad
round
shoulders. That it,
But we're
so
not talking about that.
But
game.
well,
We're
I mean,
talking
it's a
about
good
Iberian
comparison.
Games.
no, this game is actually a really good comparison. That there's a lot of same mechanics in this one, and I think that's why it was so easy to catch on to this one is because we were already
Well,
very
for the
familiar.
ones who've played it, I mean, Heather and Alan have not played that.
Yeah, exactly, but we could explain it
Yes.
because we dealt with these mechanisms before. So basically, so you get to choose the starting price. So you pay whatever the price. So if you decided you want to pay $24 for your share, everyone after that will have to pay $24 for their share. So you can really make sure that no one else gets into your stock. The problem with that is, though, what was the problem with being the only person buying it in your stock,
the
Randy?
problem with setting your shares high, or the fact that if you get a share and people decide not to back you, is when you get to the build trains phase, build track, I should say, you only can build once per each share or investor. So when you go through, if you're the only one, you can only lay one track, which means if you can't reach a destination in the first round because there's only one build phase, then your stock is going to plummet down again. So if you cannot reach a destination in each turn of a build, your stock drops by the number of investors you have in that stock.
Right, and the money that you buy the investment goes to the company, not to the bank or not to someone else.
Yeah.
It goes to the company.
Yeah, so that's keep in mind is that player and companies are two
Very
different people,
things.
as well as the bank is a different person. So you really So you got three different entities, and I say three different entities. You have all your different players, all your different companies, and then you have the central bank. So kind of keep that in mind. So you decide the share that you're going to buy. You're going to choose the price onto that, and then everyone's going to go until basically they have no more money to invest or they decide to pass, and then it starts to actual gameplay. So you go at the top of the track to build, and whoever has the first color of cube for that company does the first build. You keep going, and once that company has completed all of its actions, which is based on the number of players that contributed to that, then dividends are paid out. So based on how
far up this investment track
is, which is you can increase it by connecting different cities to on the same line to allow it to be worth more because you're attached to more cities. And so you get the dividend paid out, and then you go to the next company, and you keep going to the number of companies. You follow this round chart. So like the first round, there's only one build phase, but then the second and third round have two build phases, but the fourth only has one. So kind of keep that in mind. But so after that build phase, and you go back to the beginning, you buy more shares. And so you can kind of alter your strategy a little bit or try to get into someone that did a really good job that last round until, again, you run out of bounty and pass. The first player token goes to the first person who passes, so it's a little bit of advantage. And then it goes on and on again. So there is a couple of things that's interesting. It's not just about build, though, because you can lease trains. So for an example is you can have... Okay, so say I'm at this blue train here, and I want to connect to this city. Well, Orange has already created a path. I can pay, the blue company can pay the Orange company money to use their trains and end up on this city, which was quite...
Very powerful.
Very
I feel like it was
powerful.
too powerful. That was the problem. It felt like the person investing, it was almost, you were better off going after somebody and just tailing them and following their track, because it was cheaper. And it's like, okay, it felt too advantageous, because not just because of the cost, but because you didn't have to waste a train placement action to do it. So, you could jump to just the important things.
So, and are we sure that the leasing, we weren't supposed to put a train on that lease?
No,
No,
it
you
shows
weren't.
it specifically in
Because
the
the rule
See,
specifically
for
says
me-
through the
the
rules
rule
to confirm.
specifically
Oh,
says
yep, there
that
it
each
is.
hex says one train per hex,
See.
unless it's in a city or urban development.
Yeah, that just seems... I mean, I get it does end up saving you quite a bit, but someone's got to build that track. But it's almost like you almost have a sacrifice. Like, for me, it almost felt like if you were being very strategic about this, you could jack this up. Like, okay, I've got one share in this company here, but I got 3 shares in here. I'm going to spend my share here and do my action to not necessarily help this company. but to help my company over there.
And Randy tried doing that.
That very last round.
Yeah, that very last
Yeah.
round. But I don't agree. I don't think that it's a broken strategy because I built a pretty good sized track that you guys took advantage of with my red company. So you have to build tracks.
Red and blue both piggybacked off each other, so that's not fair.
So,
and they were the highest level, and I felt it was because they kept piggybacking off each
but
other.
I built the red first, and then you know, I know I built a pretty extensive yellow, which no one really jumped in on.
But that's because they were so far away.
Right, but I'm just saying I built that red first, and then came in behind it, and I don't think I don't think it's a strategy to say, all right, I'm only going to tail after somebody else, because if you only tail after somebody else, it may not
and
work
then their
for you.
company gets so much money for doing that that they don't have to worry about stocks, or they can really use that money to drive their engine.
Yeah.
So is it completely broken? No, but I think
it's an important part of the strategy.
I think
very important.
Very important. Yeah. And I wish we didn't kind of realize this until midway into the game. I would have loved to see how this turned out. I would love to play this again to figure out how it all works, because there's several things that I'm just like, ooh, what if we'd done this? What if I'd done that? What if I had done this?
Right.
And I think that's actually a key component to playability, because like I mentioned, what was that game we played that I felt like satisfied on? This is the opposite of me wanting to, hey, I know I want to play this again because I didn't quite get it right. I want to figure out how to play this game. It is, big shoulders, light, but there's still enough here to make it worth another playthrough.
There was surprisingly more meat to it than what I thought, which I'm glad since I bought the game. But there was more to it than what I thought initially, and it felt really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and especially when you don't have time for a big economic game. It
didn't take that long.
It really didn't take that. So this might get your little crunch in without being like, oh, I don't have 4 hours. I've got, an hour and a half, maybe 2. Oh, okay, we can maybe do this one. Versus, staying up all night, which we have done before.
Maybe.
So overall, fantastic game. But you seem to have some concerns about this game.
First of all, it probably am biased because I like City of Big Shoulders so much.
Right.
Because the piece that I enjoy of that game was not in this game. The second thing is the logic of this threw me big time, because you don't get paid dividends from the company. That just blew my mind.
You mean from the bank?
No, I'm saying you don't get paid from the company.
The bank pays you the dividends.
I want to start a company in Spain now, because obviously it's the place to go, because the bank pays the dividends to the company and to the investors.
I almost felt like it was actually, their center line was being used, so the bank was almost random people that were using, it was the profit.
I think it's the bank controlling the money. So, the company used the bank, and the people used the bank, and the bank was kind of like the middleman.
But that's not how business works. But it made no sense. Like, if you're an investor in a company, the company is going to pay your stock.
But you're not selling any goods in this game, and so where are you going to get that income from? Well, it would be the people using the transports,
right?
And and essentially that money's coming from the bank, because that's.
But I think the piggybacking on other people's tracks was amplified in its impact because of the fact that you didn't pay dividends out from the stock, from the companies. If you had paid out from the company, it would have been a totally different ballpark as far as how, because you wouldn't have had it. You would have to get investors. It wouldn't work in this game
because you have nothing to sell here.
Well, I understand you don't sell things, but you still have investors.
There's no way to integrate money back into the game.
Yeah,
which I honestly thought it was an interesting part of the game, that when you bought shares, it goes to the company, and then the company has to pay to build the trains. And so, it was a little weird that the bank has to pay out for dividends. But
I thought it was the people using it.
But it's like it's that investment that's paying it back, not the bank.
I just felt like it should have been, if you bought the land, it should cost the other people double or something to use that land to get through.
Instead of it being cheaper.
Instead of being cheaper. And then you would take away, you could pay the stock out because people are paying your company, and that takes away
it should have been more expensive to lease than what it was.
Yeah.
Like if it costs $4 to build, it should have cost $6 or $8 to lease it.
I was actually okay with this. I
didn't mind it, but I see Randy's point.
No, I kind of see it, but at the same time, listen, I think what is happening is you're comparing it so much for big shoulders
Mm-hmm.
that you can't get out of that
I
brain
agree.
set.
It made me feel like, oh, I really wish I would have been playing City of Big Shoulders.
And I'm not as big of a fan. There's a little bit of a take that element to Big Shoulders.
Oh, there's a lot of take that.
And I'm not a fan of that. So I like this version.
No, I understand that. And there's a certain aspect where I could say, all right, typically, if I had the time, I'd probably play Big Shoulders because we don't play it that brutally. But if it was like with a group of people that I wasn't aware of and I'm like, oh, are they going to be brutal about this? Well, let's just play the safer version. So I can see this. I think this does have a spot for economic games. I think it is actually a pretty good economic game for one of the shorter, light to medium weight.
I mean, once you get it, the game says it plays in 60 minutes, and I believe it. I think we can knock it out in 60 minutes.
Yeah. It's like, if everyone knows
that's so fast, which is so refreshing.
Score it.
I really liked it. I think it fills a nice little spot in my collection. I'm going to give it 8.5. It's a solid game.
Yeah. What about you? What's your score?
I'm probably more of a 6.5. Probably going to go to 6.5. That's where I'm at. I just didn't enjoy it that much.
I think
and
we're
the
comparing
logic
it to...
issues. Yeah, I'm sure it is some comparison. I'm just saying I didn't find it that fulfilling, and particularly when I ran into logic problem issues as far as how the money gets paid out, because it just didn't make sense to me.
Okay. I am probably actually going to give this an 8. I really enjoyed it. It is a good, short, economic game that still had some meat to it. Compared to most of the other stock ones I've played, they take a substantial amount of hours. Yes, the best one is Big Shoulders that we've played, but this one does fill a niche. I really appreciate it, so it's an 8 for me.
And I admit this one makes me more, because we haven't played the other two, it makes me more excited to play the other two games in the series.
Oh, which is?
You got Irish Rails, and you got, I can't remember the second one. There's 2 other games.
Do they have different mechanics? Or is it the same? Okay.
Yes, all 3 are completely different games.
Okay, well, I'm excited to get those out. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast tonight. Well, at least me and Robert did. So if you would like to hang out again, we hope you will, and we'll catch you guys later. Bye. Shares are very, very limited, just with finance as well as actual, the financing piece of it. So, where are we at? Are we talking about Game Boy right now?
We're talking about Iberian Gauge.
No, I'm talking about
We're in your house.
What section are we in? We finished up rules.
Yeah, we finished up rules. You didn't give it a score.
I'm totally putting this at the end, right?
No, you are!
You didn't.
I completely lost my brain!
You didn't
I'm
score
so
it.
tired.
No, I didn't score it.
You didn't score the rule.
So we didn't even finish the rules.
No, we went right into gameplay.
That's why I was like, wait a second.
So where should we pick up?
She's tired.
I'm confused where we left off, so I can't say where we pick up. Should we just start the rules over again?
No, we're not going to start the rules over.
You're going to have to do some
it's
editing,
only one
editor.
page long.
Yeah, you're going to have to do some editing, editor.
That's where I was confused. I was like, wait, we're talking about rules. Did we ever finish up?
We didn't finish rules.
Okay. That's what I meant.
So what would you score the rules, Randy?
That's where we'll go. We'll start.
Yeah, we'll start.
Hey, so
Oh, you got me laughing. I can't stop.
Hey, Randy, how would you rate the rules?
They are a -6.
All right. We ready? Okay. So, Randy, give it a score. What were the rules to you?
What were the rules to me?
Well,
they are everything to me.
On a warm August night, it was just me and the rules.
I tried to curl up under them, but they're a little too small.
You got a little fresh with me, and I was like, I like it.
Yes.
A piece of paper caressed my cheek. And
The video is going to be like this long, and the bloopers reel is going to be like...
All right, let's do this.
I love you, rules.
What do you make of these rules? I can make a hat, a brooch, a pterodactyl.